Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Joseph Ridley's Plot Points. Today, I want to talk about the X-Men and them joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, looking back into the Fantastic Four X-Men crossover episode that I did previously, got me thinking, especially with Logan about to come out, how would you integrate the X-Men, an established franchise with Fox, into the Marvel MCU? The issue you have to go here is not only the history of the characters as they are within the comics, but also the history of them being in other films. Now, in the age of reboots and reshoots and everything else, I don't think it'd be too difficult to present the fans and the public, even those who are just fans of the movie, not necessarily the comics, with a new X-Men film franchise. Now, one of the things I think you can do, and kind of makes an easy lead in, is use Professor X as a great subplot to leading into the X-Men joining the MCU. And essentially what I mean here is you have Professor X with Cerebro, living in upstate New York. And you could easily reference the fact that maybe there have been many other battles between the X-Men and all these other villains. In other words, kind of create a mythology of history with these characters. But they've always been undercover and hidden away thanks to Professor X using Cerebro. In other words, every time there'd be a mass situation involving the X-Men or anything else, Professor X or Jean Grey would jump on the mic and do one of those Men in Black mind wipes to everybody. Yes, it does filter into the ethics of the situation, but you could also lead into maybe with S.H.I.E.L.D. not even being aware, or maybe secret clandestine groups within S.H.I.E.L.D. Not like we haven't had those before, being aware. But I think overall it would be a simple tool for saying that the X-Men have always been a part of the Marvel Universe, only they've been hidden away. This would be a great way to have Deadpool be a part of the MCU as well. The Deadpool movie does enough of its own that it's very separate from the normal Fox continuity of X-Men films. At the same time, it does still bleed over with connections to Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead. However, in looking at those films, there's nothing else that references really anything else of that universe. It's set in more modern times. It shows the X Mansion. Yes, there are references to Wolverine and Professor X and things of that nature, but Deadpool's a fourth wall breaking individual. He's also very aware that he's part of something else, whether it be a movie or a comic book. And so essentially, you could fit him easily in. I mean, that's where they could come out and say, well, this crashed ship at the end is actually a carrier, even though it basically looks like a down helicarrier from S.H.I.E.L.D. You could more easily say, yes, now it is. Either way, he'd be an easy character to integrate into the universe. Especially if you put Cable in the sequel, you could even have him be referencing other timelines, other places where the Avengers don't exist, but the X-Men do, or even worlds where life never really developed, or there was nuclear fallout, or all the humans disappeared. In other words, you could reference these other comic book storylines and the Fox continuity of films without directly integrating them into the films of the MCU. Now, picking up, I guess the question is, where would you go from here? And I think quite simply, you would need to have something that brings the X-Men into full light. I think it would be easy to have one of those X-Men 2 type references where Professor X is talking in the camera to the president or to other people of the world. Definitely. And I think with the Inhuman hysteria going on in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you could reference that as well. The fact that even a small number of Inhumans has been enough to bring concerns to the world, and now you're bringing the X-Men, which is not only a collection of powered people, but also a collection of people who are considered the next step in human evolution. You could definitely lead into that. Now, with Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver already being a part of the world, I don't think there's a concern there. Even in the comics, they've started to take them away from what you consider to be mutant. I don't even think Magneto's their father anymore, which honestly I think was done just so that Marvel could try to integrate those characters more into the Marvel comics and make them something else, considering they're not mutants in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and marketing and business and all that other crap that falls into these categories. So, all that being said, I think you could jump off with introducing the X-Men to the MCU, uh, starting with either an event, a battle. I think leading in with action would be a great scene. introduce your characters very quickly in a battle, battling a usual villain, and then showcase Professor X or Jean Grey or what have you, wiping people's memories of the event. I think this would be a great starting point. I think from there you could lead into a collection of mutants who would serve as your foils to the X-Men, maybe the Brotherhood, maybe even another group. I mean, there's a lot of different groups out there. I do think the Brotherhood would be an easier way to go, especially since they're already established in the Fox line of movies, but also those characters are more well known to fans as well. And I think one thing you could lead in with is the idea that Magneto has maybe been comatose in prison or a hospital somewhere due to a battle with the X-Men early on, and the Brotherhood has been searching for him, and or put him someplace else. By the way, have him be found, awakened, and upset. If not him, then I think you could lead in with another group of mutants within the Brotherhood who, with maybe someone like, I would say Mystique, but at this point, with her being such a popular character in the Fox franchise, I would distance myself from that character for now. But go with a character that is well known, that is powerful enough and creative enough that the public and the fans could latch onto them. Have them leading the Brotherhood, have them come up with a plan, something that ends up basically bringing the mutants out into the open. And the reason I'm saying jumping between ideas here is because I think there's an opportunity to end whatever that film is, with the X-Men battling the Brotherhood, with Magneto being the reveal at the end of the film, in a hospital, waking up, maybe him waking up and approaching a massive land and creating Genosha, or something to that degree. I mean, honestly, where they're with things now, you could even lead into the idea that maybe Genosha already exists, and it's been hidden away. And thanks to all the mutants there and Magneto, it's been sequestered away behind the scenes until some devastating event leads to it being discovered by the world, but not just discovered, to annihilated, and that leading to Magneto and his group of people seeking revenge on the world. I mean, yes, I think that'd be a little harder to fathom, maybe build up to it. I mean, you'd have all these ideas the public might not buy unless it's done very creatively. But again, I think the biggest way to introduce the X-Men to the MCU is simply to use this plot device of Professor X and Jean Grey mind wiping people, a la Men in Black. Start the movie with a battle, something familiar, show the powers in use, show that it's being done, and use it as your starting point to introduce these characters to the world. Then you can lead into footage in the background of Civil War, footage in the background of other things going on, conversations that these characters are having about the plight of mutants in today's society, about the birth of the heroes, people wanting to bring them out into the open, but there's still being fear based on past events that have now been removed and covered up thanks to the X-Men do in American history. And I think overall that's where you can have a reason for why the public has not known about mutants up until now. They've been hidden away so well that they just have not been connected to anything. And the movie could very much be about revealing these people, not just to the audience, but to the world. And I think that's what you need to have in. I'm going to reference Heroes now. I don't think Heroes did a great job of doing this, but you had season 1 and going to season 2 with our characters being hidden, in season 3 when they're revealed they're labeled as terrorists, and season 4 with the series ending with the final reveal that Claire is this powered individual. Very convoluted, not done exactly well, but it does set up a good plot point for how things could be done. There's also other trademarks such as Wolverine and the X-Men, an animated series that showed the X-Men reforming after a tragedy. In other words, you have things that could bring the X-Men together, or should they've already been there. And I think learning from these different outfits is a great way to establish them within the MCU. But again, I think the best way is to have them have always been there in the background. Whenever a new mutant is born, whatever there's a fear of them being discovered, the X-Men swoop in, recruit them to the school, cover things up, and have their own way of doing things. Almost like S.H.I.E.L.D. in a way. And I think on the opposite side, you could have the Brotherhood doing the same thing with their own school or their own collection of people, pulling up the riffraff and the mutants that have been sequestered away who maybe look different or are powerful or feared or basically hate humanity for different reasons. And I think having them looking for Magneto as part of that first film is a great way to establish these characters and to create a sense of division between the X-Men and the Brotherhood. And not just the X-Men and the Brotherhood, but also the mutants. Why are characters like Iron Man and Captain America and now Spider-Man and the Hulk, things that are always referenced in other movies, but also kind of mythological in the way they're regarded, not feared the same way the mutants would be feared? And then introducing why they've always hidden away and what that means and how there is a desire to be exposed, but also the fear that comes with it. Yeah, it gets back into that outing mythology, that well, not mythology, the outing themes that were in X1 and X2 that I think Bryan Singer did a good job integrating into the film. But again, if we want to introduce the X-Men to the MCU, have them already been there. And then I think from there, it would be great if you ended the film with Magneto waking up or coming out of hiding or doing something very, very startling, such as maybe building Genosha or flying up into the heavens to assemble Asteroid M. Something that to the fans it's familiar, but to the public would seem so out of the ordinary that you are also going to be curious enough to say, hey, where is this going? Anyway, that's my idea for this plot point. Leave your comments below and let me know if you have questions. Bye.